1 Porsches. Norbert Singer considers the situation. Well, we can still raise a smile because the Porsches have moved ahead of the Toyotas, but they won't stay ahead if Louis Alpson does tricks like this straight out of the pits and then having a moment up at the Dunlop Bridge there, but wisely, you see, taking out of the gravel and driving it along the tarmac. We can see how he does. Comes in too hot, too fast. The back end breaks away, lots of opposite lock on. And then going 90 degrees to the track. Through the gravel. And then very quick thinking. Let's keep it going. Let's not get stuck because that would cost 10 minutes. Meanwhile, another Viper, the one Viper retired out there on the entrance to the pits, but the second Viper having trouble. So GT2 now being led by the 53 Viper of Justin Bell, David Donoghue and Luca Druni. 31 Nissan comes in. Derek Comas, Jan Lammers and the Italian Andrea Montermini at the wheel of that car. As you see, now it's starting to get much darker. And with 8 hours in the book, 10 o'clock at night, Porsche have now dropped just 70 seconds behind the Toyota and up into 4th place, the Nissan. Well, maybe they are playing the right waiting game. In the pits, Stefan Ortelli, who's doing a great job backing up Laurent Aiello and Alan McNish, both much more experienced. Obviously, he'd been working hard in the 26 car. And so the night falls. For some, it's a trip to the fairground. For others, this free light show. Absolutely wonderful. The flames spurting out of that Ferrari, which have been running very strongly. The clouds starting to move across the moon. And again, the Toyota is in a problem. Straight under the back of the car. She watches, but the mechanics go to work on the gearbox and a new cluster will go into that car. Worried faces, of course. The night, there's about 6 hours of darkness at Le Mans. In the pits, the work has to continue and the Toyotas manoeuvred out of the garage and all through the night the battle continued between Porsche and Nissan. Strain starting to show on the face of De Courtins. The 29 car fired up and blasts back into the night. Well, the weather forecast had called for the possibility of showers. But at midnight, the race had got a new complexion. Note that. No Toyotas in the top 6, a Nissan 3rd, the Courage 4th, and then another Porsche. Toyota's gearbox problems were dropping them behind. There was no question of doubt. They were the fastest cars, and in the night, it's easy to make errors. Michel and a worn-up car, the Rook racing machine, needing a lot of attention. And also attention to the Didier Tays Momo Ferrari there. Tays waiting as work goes on to rebuild the front splitter of the car. The Goodyear airship aloft of the circuit. As the rain started to patter down, the first of 2 showers which came during the night, already Toyota was starting to make their fight back. They see the rain coming down really hard here. And actually in the night, Martin Brundle on the 86th lap had reduced the lap record to 3 minutes 41.809 seconds, the lap record for the new circuit. But there were plenty of spinners out there. Thomas Bouchard revolves his McLaren and finishes up in the gravel trap. 25 Porsche, the leading car, comes in and has a problem. He's pushed back into the garage and work will be needed. And listen to the scraping. Damage to the underside of the 25 car, run over some debris in the night. And as you can see, quite a substantial rebuild job needed on the front end. And so suddenly, Porsche in trouble. The Müller, Alson and Bob Wallach car. The 26 was still running strongly. Both Alan McNeish and Laurent Aiello putting in some very quick times indeed. But as the light came up, that car hit problems, and suddenly there was a new leader. Toyota had staged the most remarkable comeback. They'd been out of the top 6. Now they were back in the lead, but one car was missing. Gone was a 28 machine of Brundle. He'd crashed the car heavily in the night. Indeed, the Toyota was actually leading by a massive 4 laps. The number 26 Porsche was charging back and even pushing people out of the way. The private Nissan, the last year's car, the number 33 machine of Kurosawa, Motoyama and Kageyama, gets a friendly nudge. Meanwhile, the Toshiba Ferrari was still going well. That's Eric van der Poel at the wheel. The team had found out that in the early stages when Wayne Taylor was driving, a wheel had been coming loose. They hadn't located the problem. It lost a lot of time, but now that car was going very well indeed. And in the problem there, Rocky Augusta, whose family, of course, have built the motorcycles and the helicopters of the same name, has a wild old spin. And the Kramer car rotating, and not the first spin for that car. Time to wash and brush up. Feel a little fresher, but for some, it was time for a quick snooze. Also gone in the night was the number 13 Courage, which had been going so well. First with a broken throttle cable, which stopped it out on the circuit. It got back, but then it had a problem with the gearbox. But one car, which has imperceptibly moved up, was the McLaren of Sugden, O'Rourke and Oberlin. It was actually up to 6th place. A Route Porsche going for a wild ride. I think it's possibly Warnock or Sherrill there, going straight on at the very tricky Indianapolis corner. Very nasty and tricky approach there. The GT2 category actually led all through the night and into the morning by the Justin Bell, David Donoghue, Luca Drudi factory. Ride for Viper, run by the French Oreca team. Out front, that big lead for Toyota. Porsche in 2nd and 3rd place, the two cars running just about a lap apart. The 26 car going strongly. This man catches up with the latest news. Of course, huge worldwide interest in the Le Mans 24 Hours. Here, 4 of the top cars running together, the 2 Porsches and the 2 Toyotas. Still was the concern, a big concern in the Toyota pits. Is he praying about it? He's putting his hands together anyway. Certainly Toyota had a gearbox which perhaps was going to let them down. And let's just not forget that 5 years ago, even with 2 hours to go, Toyota led this race and had gear selection problems. Would history repeat itself? Well, the race now, they're still praying there in the Toyota pits. The race now in its final third. Certainly this was turning out to be another classic Le Mans. 24-hour racing, you think, might be won by many, many laps, but in recent years it's tended to be very close indeed. Through the day and the night as the clock ticks on, things seem to even themselves out. All that travel staining down the side, coming mainly from the carbon brake dust. Toyota in the lead by 1 minute 20. Porsche clawing back at that lead. Then the second Porsche, Nissan, and you see that McLaren we mentioned a few minutes ago, running very strongly in 6th place, spending very little time in the pits. The flags wave. Nissan having their own particular band of supporters. The number 30 car returning to the fray. Frank Lagorce, the talented Frenchman at the wheel. He shares the car with John Nielsen and Michael Crum. But perhaps Toyota had just underestimated the pace of their rivals at Toyota. Porsche were able to answer. They were running strongly. So strongly They were really closing up on the lead Toyota. Just look at the gap there now, 12 seconds. Over 20 hours of racing and the gap at the front. 12 seconds, nothing at all.